Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it is Wednesday. It's February 14th, and this will be our chart lesson for today. And is anybody surprised that we had a rally day today? No surprise here. This market just, generally, anytime we've got a big sell-off, it rallies right after it pretty hardly, actually. Notice the big sell-off day, then we rallied. Had a little bit of a sell-off, and then we rallied. Sell-off rally, sell-off rally. Actually, we rallied back some of that on the same day and then finished it off and sell-off, rallied back some and just continued higher. This market is just not going to sell off right now. It wants to go higher. Uh, Really, yesterday we relieved all of the overbought conditions we had in one day, really. So another day like this, we'll be right back being overbought again. But we relieved a lot of that yesterday, which would allow for a rally today. So no surprise to me that it rallied. I figured that's probably what we'd get, especially after this evening bounce here. Again, most of this rally came in the overnight session and then late in the afternoon when really most of your traders have closed up shop for the day. So let's flip over to the 2000 tick chart and we can take a look at it and go through the trade. There are some trades today. Um, I would categorize the day as mostly being sideways though. But let's flip over there and take a look. Okay, here's our 2000 tick chart, and you can see that we rallied in the overnight, and then we pretty much were sideways, and then we rallied late again, late afternoon, with most of that rally, the new prices coming after the after 2:30, basically. And notice here that here's where we closed yesterday. Here's where we opened today. So there was a gap there. Notice where they brought it once we started heading lower here. Your first target you got to assume is they're trying to fill that overnight gap if there is one, and there was one. And notice we pretty much filled that to the tick, and then it was a little bit more sideways action before it was off to the races to the highs again. And I haven't measured these, but you'd probably want to measure this. This would be your target in the afternoon. You could see we more than met a measured leg there. So there it is in a nutshell. Just a quick overview, but just a lot of sideways in here. We did add some good movement down and then some good movement back up. But let's zoom in, go through the trades, and wrap this day up. It's Valentine's Day, so we'll try to get out of here a little early and keep everybody at home happy. So anyway, here we are. Notice that we had this trend coming up. We had a break, couple legs up, then we came down, and we got a first entry, second entry. So this was a second entry short and a lower high after a break and two legs up. So just trying to get a scalp out of this is what you expect, and maybe it takes off. It's good for a little more than a scalp, but it does not take off, and we find support across here where we made that last low. And notice we get 1, 2, triple test there. Really, it's a quadruple test, multiple tests with a nice signal bar finally showing some rejection. If it breaks above that, go with it. And there's another nice move. If you just caught those two moves, it might be all you need today. You get a couple of points runners off each one. You might be done for the day. But it runs up. We do make a new high, another new high here. Then it tries to go higher once and fails. That is a lower high. You might have even considered going short there on that second entry. I didn't mark it. We're a long way away from the EMA, but you never know when you're going to make that second leg up. And it did attempt to make a second leg up. Notice it broke higher and failed instantly and turned down. This is a fairly bullish bar. It does have some stem, so sometimes you got to be careful with those on an engulfing bar. But I think you could trade that on the engulfing bar. If not, there's a little bit of stem, but I still think it's pretty bearish. So if it does break lower, maybe you go with it. There's a lower high here too, and I did not mark it because by that time it looked a little congested and we weren't closing below the EMA. So I felt like you needed to wait, and notice you had a second entry long here that failed. So if it breaks lower there, we're probably heading on lower. And that does confirm that little short-term trend line there. And then notice we get a, it looks like we're going to bounce here. We get a close outside. It runs to a new low, and then it reverses. No chance to get long here, really. Comes up, close outside, new high, and then we're working lower again. There is a lower high here. It breaks higher and turns down. I didn't mark that one again. It's one, excuse me, I bumped my headphones there, so it might have made a little racket. If it did, I apologize. Broke higher there and turned down. Maybe you trade that. It's moved a little far to be a lower high, and it's not a failure. It's not where you'd really look for a failure. So I didn't mark it. If you took that, maybe I'd probably be willing to give it a green. I'd still say it's aggressive. And of course we bounced down here where we'd been bouncing, but no setup. Close outside, moves to a new high, and turns down right here. And this was kind of a new spot. I originally had the line up here, so I moved it down when we got this next one here. Anyway, I don't think you can go short there yet because it's kind of a new spot at this point. But when we come back and make the lower high right there, it does look a little congested, but this is a range day. You'll see that the momentum is just kind of waning, and you get a big bearish bar there. I like going short there. Just make sure you got room to get out before the midline because it could bounce like it did. We had been running up and down up until that last one, so you still got to be wary of that one since we bounced there a minute ago. And then we get a triple test here with plenty of room to get out before going back to the high, and we've been bouncing here, so I like going long there. You don't know that it's going to break out and give you this big move, but it does, and you might have gotten something out of it. I did mark this green. I think it's real close. It's right on the border of being green and blue, but I went ahead and marked it green because it just looks a little congested across there too. But I think you're probably going to be fine taking that in most cases. Runs up, you do get a breakout, close outside, move to a new high. You get a lower high here, but again, sometimes you get a couple of legs up, and we could come down and bounce off the EMA and go higher. We hadn't got back to the EMA yet, so I'm a little wary of that one. You do get what looks like a reversal, but it's on the wrong side of the EMA. But if you're just patient, and just a little bit, you get a double bottom here. So that's like a new low, and then you get a first entry, second entry right off the key entry point. Nice signal bar. That's the place to go short. You're probably going to get a runner on this, no matter how you played it, and it just drops. And we actually, I believe we get an overshoot here. If you look, that pretty much fits nicely along the midline. So I think this is an overshoot. You could play it on down. You could still say, hey, maybe that fits there, but I think it's an overshoot. I think it was more along right there because it tends to fit better. And then we would just reverse here, and we're working up. There's no reason to go long yet because this was a pretty good downtrend. So just sit tight and see what we get over here. That's your first break, so you'd expect it to make a new high. A couple of different people asked me about this trade. You would think we would try to make a retest of the low here, which we do end up doing a little bit later, but this green one plays out first. And it is a second entry. You are expecting prices to try to retest that high possibly. It's not always 100%, but I think that's a reasonable trade. I made it green. If you took it, it's right there on the borderline. You could almost argue for it to be red, but I just think it's a little bit aggressive and needs to be green. If you took it, it's a good read. It's just some reasons to be a little concerned about it. There is some good support there, and it is a higher low as well off that support. So, but notice how it runs up, and we keep trying to go higher, and you try to go higher once, twice, 3 times, and then this is really a 4th time. I really called that all one move. So big bearish bar here. If it breaks below that, it's probably going lower. And sure enough, it does break and take off. Then we get a break. You get 2 legs up here. there's a second entry short here. Technically, it's just a first entry. It's a hidden second entry. But I'm not. I think this broke lower and traded back up and then traded back down. So by the time this closes, it's just a doji. So I don't think you can go short there or anything. It turns out to be a really great move, but there's just no entry there. And that's the retest of the low here. And where does it bounce? Right at the previous day's close. Boom, it shoots up. You get a spike in channel here. That was the goal, to retest that. And when it held, the buyers came rushing back in, and off it goes. I don't see any real good chance to enter this on the way up here. There's no, this is your signal bar here, so you can't enter there. You don't get a high or low. You don't get a reversal or anything here. It just takes off. So it's a spike in channel. So no way to really enter that. There's no second entry or anything. And then suddenly it turns down at right here. And I originally had those lows a little lower, but I adjusted it. Seemed like we really got more touches right across there once we made this high. So I don't see anything. There's no entry there. Then you get a break and new low, and then you're going the other way again. So it's really hard to know what's going on right in here. And you can't take this, as bearish as that looks. I mean, look how bullish that is. You just can't take that because it could whipsaw you in a New York second. You need a lower high or something, and your lower high doesn't set up. But notice you get a reversal pattern right at the high of the previous range. I like going short right there. And that's a nice move. It's a nice quick move. And then you get another test down here, a high or low with a 6 tick, very low risk, way away from the EMA. And that's the place to enter. And if you enter there, you get a runner. Look at it take off. And then there's actually a triple test right here on the breakout. We broke out. We came back and tested it once, twice, and then 3 times. And you get a very nice signal bar showing rejection. And you could say, hey, maybe it's off this trend line here as well. So I like going long. It would have been nice if it came back and gave you another second entry right here and confirmed it, but it doesn't. It just takes off. You could argue that there's a first entry, second entry failure, but it's not a place you're looking for a failure. So you really can't trade that as a failure, in my opinion. I think you need a triple test or something there, or a second entry off the trend line, and you just don't get it. It takes off. And of course, your target would be a measured leg based on this first move this morning. And there's another way you might look at this one too, but since we made a new low here, earlier on I would have been looking at a measured move like this. But when we made a lower low here, you just pretty much have to assume that's not going to be correct. And you can see we got close to that. I mean, I'm not going to say there's not something there, but generally you won't get a new low like this and still get a measured leg. Your measured leg will be from the new low. So that's the reason I measured it from here, and really this high ends up being way up here. And of course we do find some resistance there, and it acts as support later before it goes higher. So I think that's correct, and that's how we would normally do it. So nothing's 100% in this thing. Sometimes things will be a little off, and you know, this is one way that we would normally look at this starting off anyway. Again, we'd measure to right here, and then there would be your low, and then there's your measured move. So you might have left that on there, and once we went higher, that would be your secondary target. So just keep that in mind. So, but there it is. There's a nice number of trades today. Not the greatest price action, but better than some of what we've had lately. It's mostly sideways. There are some trends in there. But it is what it is. We'll make the best of it. And I think we made another. No, we did not make a new high today. The high is almost up here at 6,000. So, or I'm sorry, it'd be 5,100. The high is almost 5,100 there. So we got a ways to go. But we're back above 5,000 again. And generally, those are emotional areas, and prices will test them on both sides a few times before prices will figure out if they're going to turn down or go higher. Lately, we've just been hitting them and keep going. So, um, we may bounce around on this 5,000 mark for a while because that's an historic milestone right there. And it's a 5,000, so we could test that a few times before prices figure out where they're going to go. And once again, I just honestly I don't see them allowing this market to sell off during over the next few months with it being an election year. Um, my assumption is they're going to keep it propped up to kind of keep the economy going, to try to get Biden reelected. So keep that in mind. Don't base your trades off that. As we always say, you want to follow the price action and let it dictate how you trade. But just something to be thinking about longer term there, because that's generally been my experience during, after 25 or 30 years of this. You start to remember things each over time, and most election years they don't let this thing sell off. So uh, anyway, that's enough for today. I'm going to wrap it. Just remember too, we talked about it, where the close was yesterday and where we opened today. Most times they're going to try to fill that on the same day. So once we started going lower, that should have been a clue that this might be your target to try to get any longs till you get there. And we could have gone further because a lot of times this is a nice two-legged correction. So a lot of times that'll be the center of a pattern. So, but when we didn't make that measured leg and came up short right there, that would tell you we're probably going to see a bigger rally in the other direction. So always use these measured legs and remember the rules on them. If you don't make them, a lot of times it means you're going to push harder and stronger in the other direction. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow and wrap up our week. I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.